Most people think fasting alone is enough to burn stubborn belly fat. But what if I told you there's one food that can double its effect and even make your face look younger in just days? Because here's what almost nobody talks about. Visceral fat isn't just sitting around your waist. It's actively aging you from the inside. It drives inflammation, messes with your hormones, and slowly affects how your skin looks, how your face holds water, and even how tight or loose your features appear. And this is where things get interesting. A lot of people are actually doing intermittent fasting the right way. They're skipping meals, extending their fasting window, even feeling lighter. But something's still off. The belly fat isn't fully going away. The face still looks a bit tired and a bit puffy, sometimes even older than before. Ever notice how two people can lose the same amount of weight, but one looks sharper, tighter, almost glowing, while the other looks drained? That's not genetics. That's not luck. There's a hidden biological switch that gets activated during fasting, a very specific window where your body becomes incredibly sensitive, almost like it's waiting for instructions. And what you eat in that moment can either accelerate fat burning at a deeper level or completely stall the process without you even realizing it. And the craziest part, most people are unknowingly doing the exact opposite of what their body needs at that moment. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what to eat, when to eat it, and why this simple shift can transform not just your waistline, but how young you look in the mirror. As a metabolic health specialist, I've spent over a decade studying why some people get incredible results from fasting, while others struggle despite doing everything right. Early in my career, I was deeply focused on the science of metabolism, how the body processes energy, stores fat, and responds to different nutritional signals. I spent years diving into nutrition science, aging, and the hormonal mechanisms that control everything from blood sugar to fat storage. But what really shaped my understanding wasn't just research, it was working directly with people. I began seeing patients dealing with stubborn visceral fat, rising blood sugar levels, early signs of insulin resistance, and something that concerned many of them even more. They felt like they were aging faster than they should. Their energy was low, their skin looked dull, their face carried that constant puffiness or fatigue, even when they were actively trying to get healthier. Naturally, many of them turned to intermittent fasting. And to be fair, some saw great results, but a large number didn't. They followed the rules. They extended their fasting windows. They stayed consistent, yet the deep belly fat barely moved, and the visible signs of aging didn't improve the way they expected. That's when I started noticing a pattern. The patients who combined fasting with very specific nutrients weren't just losing weight, they were transforming. Their waistlines shrank faster, yes, but more importantly, their skin looked tighter, their faces less inflamed, their overall appearance noticeably younger. Even their internal markers began to shift in ways we could measure. Over the years, I tracked these changes closely. I reviewed emerging research on fasting, cellular repair, and inflammation. I compared lab results, blood sugar levels, inflammatory markers, waist circumference, and the difference was consistent. It wasn't just about when they ate, it was about what they gave their body at a very specific moment. And here's the part most people miss. This isn't about extreme dieting or complicated protocols. You don't need to follow a rigid plan or cut out everything you enjoy. This is about understanding how your body actually works at a deeper level, how it responds to timing, nutrients, and internal signals. Because once you understand this one missing link, everything about fat loss and anti-aging starts to make sense. In this video, we're going to break this down step by step, so you can finally understand what's actually happening inside your body and why one small shift can change everything. First, we're going to look at what really happens during fasting beneath the surface. Not just skipping meals, but the internal shift your body goes through, from burning sugar to tapping into stored fat. You'll see how this transition works, and why visceral fat, the deep, stubborn fat around your organs, becomes the primary target during this phase. Then, we're going to uncover the hidden mistake most people make. Because fasting alone isn't always enough. In fact, for many people, it can actually slow things down if one key factor is missing. We'll talk about why metabolism can stall, why fat loss plateaus happen, and why some people feel like they're doing everything right, but not seeing the results they expected. After that, we'll dive into the science behind the one specific food that changes the equation. You'll understand how it interacts with your metabolism, how it helps stabilize blood sugar, and why it has such a powerful effect on inflammation and fat-burning hormones. This is where things start to connect, because it's not random, it's biological. I'll also walk you through what both research and real-world clinical observations show when fasting is combined with targeted nutrition. Not just theory, but actual patterns seen in people, improvements in body composition, reduced inflammation, and visible changes in how the body and face respond. And finally, we'll get practical. I'll show you exactly what to eat, when to eat it, and how to combine it with a simple 14 to 18 hour fasting window. No complicated routines, no extreme restrictions, just a clear, effective approach you can follow. We'll also talk about what kind of results you can realistically expect. Not just fat loss, but reductions in puffiness, better skin appearance, and that tighter, more defined look that many people are actually after. By the end of this video, you'll have a simple, science-backed strategy you can start immediately. Visceral fat is not just stored energy. It's biologically active and constantly sending inflammatory signals throughout your body. It surrounds your internal organs, interferes with normal hormonal function, and quietly drives processes that affect everything from your metabolism to how your skin looks and ages. And the reason it builds up in the first place is more predictable than most people realize. Frequent eating keeps your insulin levels elevated almost all day long. Every time you eat, especially foods high in refined carbs or sugar, insulin rises. And insulin's primary job is to store energy. The problem is when insulin stays high, your body is essentially locked out of fat-burning mode. It can't efficiently access stored fat, so instead excess energy gets stored, often as visceral fat. Over time, this becomes a cycle. More frequent eating leads to higher insulin. Higher insulin leads to more fat storage. And that stored fat itself begins to worsen the hormonal imbalance. Now add aging into the equation. As you get older, your body naturally becomes less sensitive to insulin. This means it takes more insulin to manage the same amount of food. And when insulin sensitivity declines, fat burning becomes less efficient, especially in stubborn areas like the abdomen. This is why many people notice that even when they eat less, the belly fat doesn't respond the way it used to. And this is where a major misunderstanding happens. Most people believe the solution is simply to eat less. Cut calories, reduce portions, try to out-discipline the problem. But the real issue isn't just calories, it's hormones. If insulin remains elevated and inflammation stays high, the body will resist fat loss no matter how little you eat. This is also why fasting, while powerful, doesn't always work the way people expect. Yes, fasting lowers insulin and gives your body a chance to tap into stored fat. But if done incorrectly, or without the right nutritional support, your metabolism can start to adapt. The body becomes more efficient at conserving energy. Stress hormones like cortisol can rise. And if your body isn't getting the nutrients it needs, fat burning can actually slow down instead of speeding up. Think of your metabolism like a fire. Fasting removes excess fuel, but without the right spark, the fire doesn't burn hotter, it just burns slower. And this is exactly where conventional advice falls apart. Eat less, move more, ignores the hormonal signals controlling fat storage. Low-fat diets often overlook the role of inflammation and blood sugar. And constant snacking, even if it's healthy, keeps your body from ever fully entering a true fat-burning state. So the real question becomes, how do you keep fat burning high while also improving how your body looks and feels? When you enter a fasting state, your body goes through a very specific sequence of changes. In the early hours, it begins by using up stored glycogen, the form of sugar kept in your liver and muscles. Once those reserves start to deplete, insulin levels drop significantly. And this is the turning point. With insulin low, your body finally switches from burning sugar to burning stored fat for energy. This is the phase most people are aiming for. But here's what's often overlooked. At this stage, your body becomes extremely responsive to what you eat next. It's no longer in a constant storage mode. It's in a highly sensitive, adaptive state. Think of it like a system that's been reset, waiting for the right signal to decide what to do next. And this is where one simple addition can make a powerful difference. Extra virgin olive oil. When introduced at the right time, it works with your body instead of against it. Unlike high-carb foods that spike insulin and shut down fat burning, extra virgin olive oil helps stabilize blood sugar levels. It provides a steady source of energy without triggering a sharp hormonal response, allowing your body to stay in a fat-burning mode even after you've eaten. At the same time, it enhances fat oxidation, the process your body uses to break down stored fat and turn it into usable energy. Instead of interrupting the fat-burning phase, it actually supports and extends it. But there's another layer to this that directly affects how you look. Extra virgin olive oil is rich in anti-inflammatory compounds, and when inflammation decreases, your body starts to hold less excess water. That's when puffiness reduces, especially in the face. Skin begins to look clearer, tighter, and more defined. Not because of surface treatments, but because the internal environment is improving. Imagine your body as a cleaning crew during fasting. It's already working, breaking down damaged cells, clearing out excess fat, restoring balance. This key food doesn't stop the cleaning. It gives the crew better tools, allowing them to work faster and more efficiently without interruption. This is the synergy most people miss. Fasting opens the fat-burning window by lowering insulin and activating internal repair processes. But what you consume at the right moment can either amplify that effect or shut it down. And when you combine fasting with something that stabilizes metabolism, supports fat oxidation, and reduces inflammation, the internal environment begins to shift in a noticeable way. That's why stubborn belly fat starts shrinking faster, because your body is no longer being pushed into storage mode. It's being supported in burning mode. Over the past several years, a growing body of research has started to confirm what many clinicians have been observing in practice. Studies on intermittent fasting consistently show improvements in insulin sensitivity, meaning the body becomes more efficient at managing blood sugar and less likely to store excess energy as fat, especially in the abdominal area. When insulin levels drop during fasting, the body gains access to stored fat more easily. Multiple clinical trials looking at fasting windows in the 14 to 18-hour range have shown reductions in fasting insulin levels along with measurable decreases in waist circumference, one of the clearest indicators of visceral fat loss. But what becomes even more interesting is what happens when fasting is combined with specific types of nutrients. Research from metabolic health and nutrition science fields has shown that anti-inflammatory foods, particularly those rich in healthy fats and polyphenols, can further enhance fat metabolism. These compounds help reduce chronic inflammation, which is closely linked to visceral fat accumulation and metabolic dysfunction. At the same time, studies exploring metabolic flexibility, the body's ability to switch between burning sugar and fat, have found that certain nutrients can improve this process. When your body becomes more metabolically flexible, it doesn't just burn fat during fasting, it becomes better at staying in that fat-burning state even after you eat. In simple terms, the body becomes more efficient. Participants in several studies who combined intermittent fasting with targeted nutrition strategies showed more consistent improvements in key markers. They experienced lower insulin levels, reduced inflammatory markers in the blood, and an increase in fat oxidation compared to those who relied on fasting alone. And this wasn't just about weight on a scale. These internal changes often translated into visible results: reduced abdominal fat, less water retention, and improvements in overall metabolic health. Some research conducted through university-based metabolic programs and clinical nutrition departments has reinforced this pattern, showing that combining timing and food quality produces a more stable and sustainable outcome. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, the message becomes clear. Fasting creates the conditions for fat loss by lowering insulin and activating stored energy. But the type of nutrients you introduce during that sensitive window can either strengthen that effect or weaken it. This tells us something powerful. What you eat matters just as much as when you eat. To make this work, the goal is not complexity. It's precision and consistency in a few key steps. Start with your fasting window. Aim for 14 to 18 hours each day, depending on what feels sustainable for you. During this time, stick to non-caloric drinks like water, black coffee, or unsweetened tea. This allows insulin levels to drop and gives your body enough time to shift fully into fat-burning mode. The most important moment comes when you break the fast. Instead of jumping straight into a full meal, begin with the key food, extra virgin olive oil. A simple tablespoon is enough. This gently signals your body without causing a spike in blood sugar or insulin. It keeps your metabolism stable and allows the fat-burning process to continue instead of shutting it down abruptly. Then wait about 10 to 15 minutes. This short gap gives your body time to respond, keeping you in a more controlled metabolic state before introducing a full meal. After that, move into a balanced meal that includes protein, healthy fats, and fiber. This combination supports satiety, stabilizes blood sugar, and prevents sudden crashes or cravings later. Try to avoid meals that are heavily loaded with refined carbs or sugars, especially right after fasting. That's the fastest way to spike insulin and undo the metabolic advantage you just created. Timing also matters more than people think. Keeping your eating window consistent each day helps your body adapt and become more efficient. When your system knows when to expect food, hormonal responses become more predictable, which supports better fat metabolism over time. In terms of frequency, aim to follow this approach daily, or at least 5 days per week. Consistency is what allows these small shifts to compound into noticeable results. There are a few common mistakes that can quietly slow progress. Breaking your fast with sugary foods or processed carbs is one of the biggest ones. It immediately spikes insulin and pushes your body back into storage mode. Overeating right after fasting can also cancel out the benefits, especially if it becomes a cycle. And inconsistent timing, fasting one day, skipping the next, makes it harder for your metabolism to adapt. This is not complicated, but precision matters. In the first 1 to 2 weeks, the changes are subtle but important. Most people start to notice reduced bloating and a more stable level of energy throughout the day. Instead of the usual highs and crashes, things begin to feel more balanced. There's also often a slight reduction in facial puffiness, especially around the eyes and cheeks, because inflammation and water retention start to decrease. By weeks 3 to 8, the changes become more visible. This is when many people begin to notice a real difference in stubborn belly fat. Clothes fit a bit looser around the waist, and that dense, hard-to-lose abdominal area starts to soften and shrink. At the same time, skin clarity often improves. The face can appear less swollen, more defined, and overall healthier. It's not just about losing weight, it's about how that weight loss shows up visually. As you move into months 2 to 3, the deeper transformations start to take place. This is where significant visceral fat loss becomes more noticeable. The internal environment of the body continues to improve, which is often reflected in better metabolic markers, more stable blood sugar levels, improved insulin response, and reduced signs of chronic inflammation. And externally, this is when people often describe looking younger, without necessarily changing anything on the surface. The face appears tighter, the skin looks more even, and that constant tired or inflamed look begins to fade. There are also mental shifts that happen along the way. Focus tends to improve, especially during fasting periods. Many people report clearer thinking and better productivity. Cravings, particularly for sugar and processed foods, start to decrease as blood sugar becomes more stable and the body adapts to using fat as a primary fuel source. But it's important to understand what's really happening here. This isn't magic. It's not a quick fix or a temporary trick. It's your biology finally working the way it's supposed to. When insulin is controlled, inflammation is reduced, and your body is given the right signals at the right time. Before you start applying this, it's important to understand that while this approach is simple, it's not for everyone in the exact same way. If you have diabetes and are currently taking medication, especially insulin or glucose-lowering drugs, you need to be cautious. Fasting can significantly affect blood sugar levels, and combining it with medication without proper guidance can lead to drops that are too low. This doesn't mean you can't do it, but it does mean you should only do so under medical supervision. The same applies if you've experienced issues with low blood sugar in the past. Extending fasting windows may amplify those symptoms, especially in the beginning, and your body may need a more gradual approach to adapt safely. If you're pregnant or breastfeeding, this is not the time to experiment with fasting protocols. Your body has increased nutritional demands during this phase, and consistent nourishment is essential for both you and your baby. For individuals with a history of eating disorders, fasting can sometimes trigger unhealthy patterns or behaviors. In these cases, it's important to prioritize a balanced and supportive approach to nutrition rather than structured restriction. Medication is another key factor to consider. Fasting changes how your body regulates glucose and energy, which means it can alter how certain medications work. If you're taking anything that affects blood sugar, metabolism, or appetite, it's always best to speak with a qualified healthcare professional before making changes. Even if you're generally healthy, starting gradually is the smartest way to approach this. You don't need to jump straight into a long fasting window. You can begin with a shorter duration, observe how your body responds, and slowly build up over time. This gives your system a chance to adapt without unnecessary stress. This is a powerful tool, but like any tool, it needs to be used correctly. When applied with awareness and consistency, it can support your body in a very natural way. But respecting your individual needs and limits is what ensures that the results are not only effective, but also sustainable and safe. Sometimes the biggest transformations come from the smallest changes, and this is one of those moments where a simple shift, something most people overlook, can completely change how your body responds. Not because it's extreme, but because it aligns with how your biology is actually designed to work. You don't need to overcomplicate this. You don't need perfect discipline or a rigid plan that takes over your life. What matters is consistency. Repeating the right habits at the right time, day after day, that's what creates momentum. That's what allows your body to adapt, reset, and start working for you instead of against you. Because what you're doing here isn't just about losing weight. You're stabilizing your blood sugar, you're lowering inflammation, you're improving how your body uses energy, and over time, that changes everything from how you feel when you wake up to how you look when you see yourself in the mirror. You're not just losing fat, you're rebuilding your metabolism. And once your metabolism starts working the way it's supposed to, the results stop feeling forced. They become natural, sustainable, almost automatic. So start simple, stay consistent. Give your body the signals it needs, and then let it do what it's designed to do. If you found this helpful, make sure to like the video so more people can discover it. And if you want more science-backed strategies that actually make sense and deliver real results, subscribe to the channel. And if you know someone who's been struggling with stubborn weight or feeling like they're aging faster than they should, share this with them. Sometimes the right piece of information at the right time can make all the difference. In the next video, I'm going to show you something even more powerful. And honestly, it's one of the biggest reasons people fail with fasting without even realizing it. Because there's a very common habit, something that seems completely harmless, that can actually shut down one of the most important processes your body activates during fasting. A process responsible for cellular cleanup, fat breakdown, and even slowing down visible aging. And the surprising part is, most people are doing it every single day. They think they're staying on track. They believe they're following the rules. But this one small mistake is quietly interfering with their results, blocking deeper fat loss, slowing metabolic progress, and preventing their body from fully entering that repair mode that makes fasting so powerful in the first place. It's not about how long you fast, it's about what accidentally breaks the internal state your body's trying to reach. And once you understand this, you start to see why some people plateau, why stubborn fat refuses to move, and why the anti-aging benefits of fasting never fully show up for them. In that next video, I'll break down exactly what this mistake is, why it disrupts processes like autophagy, and how to avoid it without making your routine more complicated. Because once you see it, you'll never look at fasting the same way again.